Should have had Grant bring us in today. That's what we should have done.
I mean, people like him better than Drake, so why not, right?
People like him better than us.
Should we just hand the podcast over to him? Should be Grant's podcast now?
And that would be the title of it too. Just Grant's podcast. And then he just has access to all of our listeners and our fan base that we've built.
Yeah.
I mean, he's young, right? He's got an entrepreneurial spirit.
He's got his finger on the pulse of the Iowa student.
Right. You know, he's in Iowa City, right? He's go-getter attitude. I think he'd probably do great things with our company. I mean,
I like it. Yeah.
It's not like
that's our exit plan.
Just give it to Grant. Ow, fuck. How are we doing tonight? Drake's not here, by the way, for the listeners. For a good reason, actually, for once in his life. He didn't get too high and pass out. He didn't go golfing with George or something like that. He
didn't just say, I don't want to do it.
That's certainly been an excuse before. It's just nah. The one night while you were gone, Kev, we were going to record
Super Bowl, right? I saw the text messages. Yeah.
And he said, fuck the podcast.
Well, he was sick, wasn't he?
He was sick. Yeah. He had an excuse, and Grant stuck up for him. And then Grant got love for sticking up for him. And
Grant's a stand-up guy. Right?
Really is. Grant, you want to bring yourself in here quick?
Hey, I got everyone's back.
We'd love to hear that, man. We'd love to hear that.
I'm in the foxhole for all you guys.
Now, can we get the guy a camera?
He has a camera.
I have a good
it's
camera.
It's his internet, man. It's his internet.
Really?
Is it bad?
Okay.
Oh, geez.
Well, I think it automatically adjusts you to your lower quality, and then you have to go back into your video settings and change it to the 720, whatever. And if it's already on 720, then it's just your internet connection is giving us shit quality. But at least you look good, Kev.
Hey, you too, buddy. Did you
Somebody
shave your head again today?
I did. Yeah.
Is that like an everyday thing for you now?
You know what? It's interesting. I mean, I'm sure a lot of the bald people out there are probably, they're more seasoned than me, right? So they're waiting to hear all of me figuring out the process. It's not too complicated, but so I shaved it on Saturday midday, and Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, let it go. And then today, woke up today, and it was pretty much, where I do have hair, which is that solid, bowl around the outside and the back. It started to clearly grow back in thicker, and you could see the dark of what would start to be hair. So probably every, twice a week is probably got to be the frequency.
Nice. That's not bad at all.
It's not bad at all. No. And it takes 10 minutes to run the little thing over it. And, although my wife said that, she's like, did you cut the back of your head? I'm like, I don't think so, but I can't see it back there.
It was always funny. Every now and then Doyle would show up with a little Band-Aid in the back of his head.
That was funny. You're like, oh, he does bleed. The man
he is
bleeds.
A human being after all.
That's the only place you could get him, is if he and when a bald guy shows up and he's got a Band-Aid on his head, right? You lose some power there. You lose a little respect, a little bit of the lore that you walk around with. You get knocked down a notch. Speaking of bald guys, we talked about this on DHT quickly, but the CrossFit Open started last week, and Dimarco is big into CrossFit, obviously now. He put up a top 300 score in the world.
How many people do the Open these days?
Registration this year for the men's division came in at 169,000 people.
All right.
And he put up the 287th best score.
Now what is it? Top 10% go to regionals, 10% of that go to semifinals, and then
so it's based on 10% is the right number from the Open to the quarters. And let's see. It's dependent upon your region. So depending on where you live. So in the US, in the US it's split on the Mississippi. So there's North America West, North American East. And then based on the signups for that region, it's 10% of that number. It's not 10% of the, so it is 10% of the overall number, but it's split into regions.
Sure.
Nick and I will have, that's like, no problem getting past that. At the next stage, so 10% is going to move on. That's probably going to look like a few thousand people in the North American regions.
Mm-hmm.
Out of that, you have to be top 60 to move on to the semifinals.
Oh, damn.
Nick could be close on that this year. He might be close, especially with the performance he just put out. That's pretty fit what he just did. So,
and so like obviously there's different events. Some you're gonna crush, some you're not gonna be so good. Like say for someone who's gonna move on to the semifinals, what do you have to like around what score for the Open would you imagine that they are getting? Like is their average placement?
Yeah, it's a good little like a research study going back and looking at what that looks like. So I did this last year.
If you did 300th in the world every single time, you're going to be a lot better than 300th overall.
Absolutely. The aggregate of the 3 weeks of the Open, if you get 300th each week, you're going to end up in like 40th place or something like that.
Okay.
Which is why it's extremely impressive what Nick just did. It was a good workout for him, but he fucking murdered. The last year, the lowest placed Open performance that made it into the semifinals would have been like 2000th in the world. So there's a weird little there's a weird contrast of the Open and the quarterfinals, right?
Okay.
So the Open, again, dozens of thousands of people. The programming for the Open needs to be a little bit more accessible, and they purposefully make it less skilled so that people can participate. Right?
Sure. Like if you're just doing handstand push-ups and all the gymnastic stuff, then
right.
Joe Schmo who does CrossFit for fun is just like, this not worth registering. Yeah.
The average CrossFitter that's at, your CrossFit Homer Glen or whatever is probably somewhere between 30 and 50 and don't have any aspiration whatsoever of being competitive, right?
Sure.
So, if you whip out a workout in week 1 that's like, hey, we're going to do single leg pistol squats, and then we're going to walk on our hands, and then when you get to the end, you're going to do ring muscle ups, and those are the 3 movements. Everyone's going to be like, well, fuck you. Right?
Well, there's about 80% DNFs for your Open. Right?
No reps. I got 0 on this workout. So as the stages, the 4 stages, Open, quarterfinals, semifinals, and then the games, the skills and the workouts obviously get harder. The weights get much, much heavier with each, stage.
Sure. So Dimarco's going to make a run at semis. Is our boy Kluver going to try to make a run at semis?
No, probably not. I think the 3 months I took off, 2.5 months, are going to hold me back pretty good. He fucking crushed me in this workout.
Yeah.
I comparatively got a top 7,000 score in the world, which is still
top
96th.
Top 10%.
Yeah, it's 96th percentile.
Yeah.
But there's some things that I just, because I had a kid and hurt myself, got severely neglected in my training over the past 2 months, which happened to be the 2 months leading up to the fucking competition.
The most important 2 months.
Right.
See, that's why that's honestly on you, man, because veteran NFL athletes know to have a kid in the off season.
You're right.
So that's really on you.
Well,
I don't want to hear your excuses.
And it's not an excuse. Hand up, that's on me. But we tried. We tried. Back to what I was saying.
Couldn't have held it in for another 2 months.
Yeah. So the Open is very accessible, and because of that, the Open gets very aerobic based. So if you have really good lungs, if you're
general fitness,
if you're really just a small
GPP type stuff,
if you're a small guy who can do, generally the Open workouts are somewhere between 12 and 20 minutes. and it's hundreds of reps, right? Like the scores on this workout were somewhere between 200 and 300 reps.
Mhm.
Not a lot of high skill other than 20 ring muscle ups. And it was at the end of 2/3 of the way through the workout. The quarterfinals is where me and Nick actually shine because our skill is much more well-rounded. We're both fairly strong, him especially, relative to CrossFitters. And the difficulties of the workouts pick up, and like our competitive sort of savvy and being able to look at a workout, break it down, and like, how should I attack this? That's really where we shine. And so I will place probably barely top 5,000 in the world in the open, but then I will go in and probably place somewhere in the top 500 in the world in quarterfinals. Um, just because that's, as things get more difficult and it's not just based on your VO2 max,
Mhm.
I start to excel a little bit more.
Sure. Yeah. Nice.
I still won't make the semis. Nick might. And if he does, I might be flying out to the East Coast to watch that in person because that would be fucking sick.
Yeah. So what? Semis are what? 30 and 30 division, and then
Yeah.
top half of that goes to the finals or something like that.
So this year, because there's 2 divisions, it would be 60 in each semi.
Mhm.
So it'll end up being like 5 heats of 12 people, maybe 6 heats of 10 people. And the top 8 to 10, it's dependent upon some other stuff. It's not totally set yet, but top 8 to 10 out of those 60 in both divisions will move on to the games.
And then is regionals and semis, are those multi-day events or?
Yep, it's a 3-day event. So it's a
Okay.
Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And you usually see that's also what makes it a lot harder is the court, so the open, you get one workout, it's released on Thursday, and then you have all weekend to do it. And it's just one workout, right? So you can hammer that thing and just be crushed and then, pick up training on Monday.
Yep.
And the quarterfinals is 5 workouts in a matter of 72 hours. And those are, you're going balls to the wall. You have to now have the ability to recover semi quickly and go and perform again. That's also where Nick and I really excel.
Mm.
Semifinals even more so. You now have an even higher level of intensity, harder workouts, higher competition, and you've got 7 workouts in a weekend.
Oof.
And then at the games, you've got 4 to 5 days, and it's somewhere between 12 and 15 workouts. And everything's even notched up. So yeah, the short-term recovery stuff gets real important, and it's a crazy sport. You hear baby girl? She's pissed. She's pissed that I got 7,000th in the world. Dad, you fucking pussy.
She should be. Her dad's a pussy.
Yeah.
Speaking of other bald guys, though, our man Bo Bauer is in a little CrossFit scene these days.
Yeah, he's I think part of it is it's like a 3-minute walk from his house. Proximity matters.
Yeah, for sure.
But Bo has an Olympic lifting background. A lot of Olympic lifting and CrossFit. He's got a competitive background. It does, for your average person, it's a nice little competitive gets the juices flowing if you're searching for that. It's always something new and exciting. You're not it's not running, right? Like it's a lot different than, hey, I'm going to go run 3 miles or I'm going to go run 4 miles, right? Like I'm going to do some intervals today, or it's everything. And Bo, the reason Drake is not here is Bo is flying into Arizona and Drake's picking him up. If we were a good podcast, we would have waited to do this at like 9 or 10 p.m. tonight, and we would have had Bo hop on for the episode.
But we're not.
We're not a good podcast.
We are a budget podcast.
We are Grant's podcast.
Yeah.
What's your training look like nowadays?
Good question, man. As of the last 2 weeks, it's non-existent. My ass didn't do shit in Hawaii, and then I'm still,
yeah.
I am still battling the time change is still killing me. So I have not gotten to work out this week, but
that hits hard too.
Yeah, it wasn't bad on the way there because you can always go to bed early. Like, who gives a shit? But coming back, oof.
Yep. I remember. So Lauren and I went on our honeymoon. came home on it was a Monday to Monday trip.
Mm-hmm.
We came home and the flights home are like they leave at night, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah, we left at 10 o'clock at night, Hawaii time.
yeah, I think
2 a.m. Central Standard Time.
yeah, I think ours was similar, maybe 8
Yeah.
or 9 p.m.s their time. And then so you get back in the morning.
And you try to sleep on the plane, but your plane sleep is just trash.
Your neck is
It's
kinked
basically
and you're
useless.
like, God, this fucking, and then the cart comes by and hits your foot. And it's just like, it doesn't work.
Right.
Right.
You're getting 15, 20 minutes at a time max. It's
The fucking baby in the bro, somebody brought their kid. Some guy smells like shit. You're never going to get good sleep on a plane.
Yeah.
So we come back, you get back in the morning, and then you're like, well, I guess we just stay up today and we'll just catch up on that next night, that first
Yeah.
true night home.
Didn't do that.
So for me, we stayed up. And let me tell you, the last time I have slept in past 8:30 was that first night home from Hawaii. Lauren and I slept from like 11 p.m. to 11 a.m. We got like 12 hours of sleep. It was I thought I woke up on a different planet. It was unbelievable.
Yeah. Got a lot of sleep that second night, but still, it's just like it's just tough to like because I'm usually like a 5 a.m. guy, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It's just
1 a.m. Hawaii time is just takes a little bit. So easing
Are
back
you
in.
are you settling back into the seasonal depression that we have here?
A little bit, yeah. Actually, that had completely escaped my body for my week in Hawaii.
It's
And
amazing, right?
oh, dude,
Fuck.
just what some sunlight and some warm air will
Oh,
do for you is
oh,
incredible.
dude. I think the sun.
Why did humans ever leave the continent of Africa? I don't understand.
Well, that was some were forced, but
I'm just saying. Way before that, before civilization.
before the people who came and forcibly did it to other people. Yeah, no, I understand.
Yes. Why
Curiosity
did we ever
got
go away
'em.
from the sun? You know.
Could you imagine the curiosity of okay, so we're living in these warm climates, right? Way back then. I don't know how many years that is. And then all of a sudden they're like, "Hey, what if we just keep going, right? What if we go across the water?" And they don't even know that there's other climates. All of a sudden, it starts getting like a little colder and it's like rainy. And then all of a sudden they find themselves in like Norway and they're like, "It's freezing as hell up here." But I guess we stay.
I guess we got to kill some mammoths and like steal their wool or something.
I guess we just stay here and make it work.
We used to be cool just running around naked, but now we need some covering now.
I think.
Speaking of that though, like just wandering around, I was thinking about this. Is how the hell did people find the Hawaiian Islands in the first place? It's in the smack dab middle of fucking nowhere.
Nowhere, man.
You're telling me they sailed there on fucking canoes? Insane.
Well,
No
I think
way.
it was I think it was bigger than canoes. I
Well,
think
they were
had-
big ass canoes, but they were still canoes, right?
Yeah, get it. Wood in the water.
It took me 8 hours on a plane going 500 miles an hour to get there from, it's like
There. I ponder
how do
all
you find this place, right?
I ponder all of this as well. I mean, it's not just Hawaii, although Hawaii is a good example because it is out there by itself.
Mm-hmm.
But like all of the island, like I suppose with like Cuba, you just kind of go by it if you're close enough and you're trying to get to America, right? Or
Yeah, but Cuba's 90 miles off of a major continent, right?
that's what I'm saying. You happen upon
Hawaii
it.
is thousands of miles in the like. If you're like just a few miles off course, you might just go right fucking past it.
I was gonna say how many people were like just out of eyesight from the island and they just kept going and they ran out of like how many people died in the attempts of like
Yeah,
and then
no kidding.
somebody eventually found it and was like, hey, we're gonna settle
I'm guessing
down
if
here.
you get close, the currents and winds would probably steer you a little bit closer, but still, yeah, it's just like, hey, I know we like where we're living at now, but we're just gonna go see if there's anything else out there, and just couldn't be further away from any land masses. And
I would not have been
Islands look
one.
good.
I would not have been one to volunteer for the explorations. Like, hey, we're gonna put you all on a boat, and the boat is shoddy at best, right? And we're gonna sail for a really long time, and we're gonna, you're gonna have to shit downstairs in the boat, right? And it's all gonna be together, and you might get scurvy.
Honestly, man, the canoes sound better than what the old Spanish explorers were sailing around in.
I would agree.
Yeah. Give me the canoe.
So you're not a guy who when you go on vacation, it's absolutely zero exercise, nothing.
Yeah, so I got 3 like 30-minute workouts, man. Like just to get the heart rates a little bit up, get the muscles working a little bit, but I don't even consider it training. No, it's just
I wouldn't consider it training, but you do a little bit of a little sweat.
Yeah, I need a little sweat.
Have to. And of course, you go hiking and road to Hana. That's a day where it takes that out of you. So some of those days take care of themselves. But man, when I go, if I travel for more than 3 days, even 3 days, I start to get a little bit like, ooh, I got to move. And I'm a little different, obviously, but I know you're similar.
Yeah, but the caloric balance was high on the excess. We were not burning as much as we were taking in for that whole week. So I'm coming up on the end of a 24-hour fast right now. And then we're gonna get reset, and tomorrow we're gonna hit a kind of introductory workouts Thursday, Friday, and then Monday we'll hit it.
Let's go. I love that. I love that little reset, that little re-jump. That's huge.
Dude, like I said, like nowhere near to equal caloric intake to output.
Doesn't it feel?
And then I had I had a work dinner last night. So like, honestly, I'm not even hungry right now.
My calories that I ate for the past 2 weeks, I'm good for another 2.
I honestly, I feel like I could go another 24 hours and probably not get that hungry.
Doesn't it? I've done 3 days before. I've done 72. Yeah. Tried to do a yoga
you probably
workout.
Did it just like, hey, I'm just eating normal and then going to stop,
That is true. Yeah.
My girlfriend, fiance, Alyssa, small girl, right? Don't eat big.
Yeah.
So I'm eating 3/4 of the appetizer, all of my meal, half of her meal, and 90% of the dessert.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Love that shit. Come on now. That fires me up. When you're eating that much, right? It's probably good to include a certain food group.
Yeah. Oh, and believe me, man, I'm all for it. That's one of my favorite food groups.
The pork food group, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And it's that time of the podcast where we mention their friends at the Washington County Pork Producers. I'm not hungry right now, and hearing about all the meals that you've eaten in the past 10 days, I'm certainly not hungry. But if I was hungry, I'd probably grab something pork related, right?
Honestly, I would be really happy right now if I walked into my freezer and found a little pork chop in there or a little pork tenderloin. That would make my night. I don't think I'm that lucky.
Yeah. I actually have a pork tenderloin in the freezer right now.
Oh man, I love me a good pork tenderloin.
You know what so it's a little bit annoying to implement it into the diet, but if I really was committed to the pork, what I would do is I would start eating 2 or 3 strips of bacon in the morning with my eggs.
You could just meal prep that, man. Bacon's good for a week in the fridge.
Yeah, you're right. I could just make it all at once.
But yeah, it is a little annoying to have to cook it every morning.
Right. Yeah.
Not necessarily cooking it, but it's messy to clean up.
Yeah, you're right. But I mean, I could add that in. I'm already doing, I consume a fair amount of sausage. We do bacon wrapped chicken breasts a lot. Like I said, we do, pork tenderloin every once in a while. We're not huge on the barbecue, but I do like ribs. I like me some ribs.
Fucking love some good slow roasted ribs.
And then, of course, if you can get a pork chop, I mean, Fairway, they sell these little pork chops, and sometimes they do a little 2 for $4 deal. Oh my God.
I don't know if I've ever seen Todd Kluver happier than at the tailgate. He's got 1 pork chop in each hand.
Never been happier. Never been happier. You're right. Before we get to some topics, I figured we'd do something we haven't done in a while. And Grant, this is a fun thing for you, and we don't always get to do this just simply because we don't get a lot of them. But if you go to Apple Podcasts You go to the review section.
Oh, let's go. I haven't done this one in a while.
So we need a name for it, probably, where I can like hit a little button and it's like,
see him back out there.
Like Kevin's little soundbite. If you go to Apple Podcasts and you go to the review section, I already have these pulled up, Grant. If you're scrambling to do this, don't worry.
We got a bad and a good.
We've got a couple bad and a couple good.
The bad ones are much more fun.
Yeah, and that's why we'll do those second, right? Most people would read like the bad ones first.
Yeah.
We read the bad ones second around here because that's really where we want to leave it off. So looks like the most recent ones, and this is actually a call to action as well. If you could go to Apple Podcasts and you haven't already, because we have an extremely impressive 961 ratings. We're almost at 1,000 ratings.
How many comments though? How many comments?
I don't know how many actual word like typed out reviews, but it's a fair amount. So this is back to August of last year. This one says, great football podcast, 5-star, or no, this is only a 4-star review. We couldn't quite earn that 5th star.
So we're great, not phenomenal.
Correct. Great football podcast with great insight and former players. A significant increase in ads and lack of content has made it a tough listen outside of football season, however.
That's fair. That's extremely fair.
And you're looking right at it. I mean, hopefully we've inserted like 20 or 30 ads to this.
Honestly, the 4 stars was generous.
Generous, right? But and to be fair, that is August 1st. That is at the tail end of the off season, where
it's a long dry season there.
At that point, we're doing like top 5 like childhood toys or something like that. Like we are down to the nitty gritty of content. So you're getting just the front end of that right now.
And we used to only do 1 episode a week too.
You're right. I don't know why we do 2.
Yeah, I don't know either.
And I don't know why people keep listening to 2, but hey. So that was one of the good ones. The most recent, oh no, this one, they're out of order. So this one is from July of last year. This one says, best Iowa pod out there. These guys get it because they've been there. Amazing chemistry and in-depth knowledge of everything Iowa football and culture. Hey, how about that? Now, what an amazing contrast that person gets that out of listening to us, and these people get what they have said about us. So this is where we come to September 29th of last year. Car accident. This is the title. It just says car accident, and then it says, does the paid version subscribers not have to listen to Kevin eating?
I believe it's Drake who usually does the eating, but yeah.
And I think it probably was Drake who was eating. But that is the entire review. Now, they did leave us a 3-star. So we'll take that. The next
car
2
accident gets you a 3-star?
Evidently.
All right.
The next 2 are 1-stars. I mean, these are the people who come to a podcast on a website, on a platform, and they would like to just, their only goal is to somehow bring down the brand, right? They want to make us look worse to other people who may try and consume us.
Fuck yeah.
So this is from CBY04. This is from August 26th of last year. Ferentz apologist. Title says it all.
Wait, what was the date again?
October 26th of last year.
Yeah, it was a rough time for Iowa football. Makes sense.
Yeah, I had to do a lot of apologizing for the Ferentzes around there. We are the PR firm. So, according to some people on Twitter. And then this one, this is great because this is our most recent one, Kev. And this is from I'm a Hawkeye on February 6th.
Okay. Wow. Yeah.
Just 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
The title, 1-star. The title, just bad.
Fair. It's fair.
The description, half douche bros, half MAGA morons. Way too much rambling.
Somewhat inaccurate, but yeah. Somewhat accurate, somewhat inaccurate. Yeah.
Not completely inaccurate, right?
Not completely inaccurate, no.
Because if you come and you just listen to Drake, you might think, MAGA moron, right? And if you look at me, I mean, I just talked about CrossFit Open this episode for 16 minutes. I mean, douche, bro.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
It fits the bill, right? So those are fun.
I do always appreciate those.
How about this? If you get on and from, so the most recent was February 6th. If you get on starting now, you haven't any review that we get from now until the next time we do this segment. We won't do it the next podcast, but we'll do it in another month or so. Any review that we get from now until then, if we read your review on the next segment we do, we will send you a t-shirt for free. We would prefer that you're
I would love to send haters t-shirts.
We would prefer that you are honest. So if you actually enjoy our show, give us the 4 or 5 stars. But if you are a hater who thinks that we're a 1-star podcast and consistently shows up to continue listening,
no, dude, we got to make 1-star podcast t-shirts.
Yeah.
That would be send those out to people.
And then we send that's the free merch. Yeah. You're right. That would be good. That'd be a good troll.
Actually, I would wear a 1-star podcast t-shirt. Just not even trolling. Like, we are a 1-star podcast.
1-star podcast. So go leave it on Apple reviews. That's the easiest one for me to find. I think you can leave reviews on other platforms as well, but I think like something like 70 plus or 80 plus % of you guys are listening on the Apple platform. All right, let's get into some actual stuff here. We've got, what do we have? Yep, there we go. So we had a couple questions come in. A couple to you specifically, Kevin.
Hit me.
Question for a podcast for Kevin. If Iowa were to find a good cornerback for next year in the portal, and assuming Harris is back and playing well, if he could set the secondary, would he leave Coop at cornerback or replace Castro at cash or Schulte at safety to get him more involved in the defense?
Read it one more time.
So I'll try and paraphrase because there's not a lot of punctuation. Yeah, he's basically saying, as it sits right now, Coop played corner.
Yep.
And Jermari Harris will be back playing corner.
Yep.
Schulte will be at safety.
Yep.
And X, I assume, will probably be at safety.
The other safety, yeah.
And then Castro would be at cash.
Yeah.
If we were to find, this is the hypothetical. If we were to find another good cornerback, which I have on good authority that was one of our last things we were seeking in the portal.
Mm-hmm.
If we were to find another starting caliber cornerback, what would you do with Coop?
Okay, that is a good question. And I think the answer would be depends on the quality of the cornerback that you find, because having a cornerback with the skill set that you have in Coop, is more valuable, in my opinion, than moving him to a cash position.
Okay.
I feel like you can have more impact at a cornerback than you can have a cash. So therefore, I would want my impact player there rather than at cash. And unless there's only like a very slight drop off, or if we find someone as good as Coop, yeah, for sure, plug him in at corner and move Coop to cash. But I think you have to have a high bar for yourself before you talk about moving Coop. That's just my opinion.
The guy that we found, hypothetically, would have to be very, very good.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, assume we find a guy like that and he comes in anyway, and you're like, I still want to put Coop there, or either or, right? Again, you're probably looking at how good is this guy, but do we then try and shift Castro to safety and move that new guy in at cash, or do we put the new guy in at safety? Or do you think that?
I mean, you're asking me to put a lineup on a hypothetical human being.
No, I know.
I don't know where to put this hypothetical person.
I think a big to the question asker. I forgot your name. I didn't look at the Twitter before this. I think another big factor there is how much X develops.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
but I think X is going to be a natural safety. I don't.
yeah,
I think I see him staying as a high safety. I don't.
yep.
In my opinion, that's his better spot for him than moving down to the cash.
I agree, and I think what X showed in the bowl game, playing a lot of reps. Obviously, he had the pick six. He's an athlete. I would say physically, he will be all but caught up and at the Division I level 100% by the time next season rolls around. I don't see him taking any steps back. I see that what I just laid out there being the same lineup, probably regardless of who we bring in. I mean, ours, I mean, that is a stacked. I mean, did we watch Castro play in that game? He was balling.
Yeah, he had a good year. He developed and he got better throughout the year. And
we don't have a hole in our DBs.
I feel pretty good about our back four there.
We don't have a hole. I mean, the hole right now is literally X is young and inexperienced. That's it. I mean, if you wanted to get really technical, you could probably nitpick some stuff for each guy. But
of course you can. I mean, at DB, you're going to get exposed at some point during the season. It's like it happens, right? Everyone gives up touchdowns. Everyone gets beat on routes, but it's going to be one of the more solid back ends in the league this year.
It would be hard pressed to find a 5-man.
The only concern right now really is, and we saw it happen kind of to us at the end of last year, is depth, right?
Yes. Yeah.
What do we have?
What do we have behind those guys? You know, we've got Phil Parker and that defensive staff. They generally, all of these guys were once the guys behind guys. We seem to just be able to keep producing, and when we need one, we've got it. But I'm sure that Phil and the boys are feeling very much the same. Hey, we feel great about U5. We need to get guys to come along. We need a guy at safety that we can plug in. We need a guy at corner that we can plug in. They're working on that. Trust me. Another question. This wasn't necessarily straight to you. But, and I'm not going to name names, but this does get a little personal. So hopefully I'm not outing anybody. But this is about Golden Hawks. And I know we've talked about this before. This guy says, for my job, I do occasional deliveries to the football training facility where I get to walk the delivery all the way into the weight room cafe. The past 2 times I delivered there, I noticed on the wall of the facility a list of names called the Golden Hawks. I was curious as to what that honorific was, since I saw both Drake and Kevin's name on there for the 2014. You fucking bitch. Didn't even let me finish the question. Yeah. Since I saw both Drake and Kevin's name on there for the 2014 season, if I recall correctly, you do recall correctly, Kevin's still a bitch. Would you like to take that one?
Sure. So back, I'm sure they still do this, but
I believe they do. Yeah.
When it comes around to the off season, you're going to have a meeting with your strength coach. Our coach was Coach Doyle at the time, right? And he's got a sheet of listed measurable goals for you, right? Body weight, body fat percentage. Then you got your 10-yard run, your pro agility, your vertical jump. Off your body weight and your vertical jump, you calculate what's called a power quotient. And then your bench, your squat, your hang clean. You have goals. This is where you're at right now. We want you to get better here, and there. We're not expecting you to grow your vert that much because we want you to gain 20 pounds. But if you can hold it close, then great, right? If you achieve every one of those goals, you are what's called a Golden Hawk. And it's, I don't know, maybe 10% of guys each year get that, would you say?
30, 35 guys in a class. I would say maybe a little higher than that. Maybe.
Well, it's the whole team, right? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. On the entire team, I would say
Yeah.
each year you might have 10%.
Yeah. So you're much more likely to get it as a younger guy because
Yes.
you have a lot more room to develop. Now, they also have higher goals for you, right? You as an 18-year-old, they're going to expect you to grow your bench press like 5% over a few months.
I was going to
Versus
say,
as
do
a
you remember
fully
how
developed
big of
human.
jumps we were sort of expected that first year?
Pretty big, but
They were
you also
like
got to
30 or
remember.
40 pounds on the lifts.
You also got to remember, though, right? Especially if you didn't go through the summer program as an incoming freshman.
Yep.
You didn't hit the weights that hard.
I was going to say the
Yeah.
maxes
So
that they
didn't
had.
have you at your true maxes yet.
Yep. You're right. You're right. I remember the first year in that 2014 offseason, I think my listed bench max was like 275 or 285. And I was like, okay, well, I can do more than that. Like, so they go off of those numbers that they have, like when you first come in, right?
Yep.
So yeah, that's basically what a Golden Hawk is, and it's not easy to do. It is damn near impossible to do after your first off season.
It gets harder and harder as it goes on. Every now and then someone will get it, like as a junior or senior. It's pretty damn impressive. I was like one off my senior year. I forget which one it was. I want to say I was like 200th off of my 10-yard split.
Yeah. Oh, that goddamn 10.
Yeah.
My third year, the year that I really got my shit together, leading into that undefeated 2015 season, was the closest I ever got. I believe I needed only 1 or 2, and I believe the squat was one of them, and it might have been the 10 that was the other one. So I got really close. The reason, this is not an excuse, but the reason that I wasn't even close, right? I did not have my name on that wall in that freshman class in 2014 with Kevin and Drake and Josie and a lot of other guys. I think that we had a decent amount of guys get it in our class, 8 or 9, I believe. And I've talked about it on here extensively, was I did not sleep my freshman year. And I did not have any clue how big of a deal sleep was, and how much that meant to recovery and progress in the gym, which sounds crazy now. Like I've read books on sleep. I listened to Huberman talk about sleep and all these other guys talk about sleep. And I, as an adult with a newborn, was averaging 8.5 hours a night over the last 2 months of the first 2 months of my daughter's life because I care about it that much. But as an 18-year-old kid, I had no idea. And I would stay up until 11:30, midnight. I saw 1 o'clock multiple times. And then I would wake up at 5:30 for a 6:15 lift. And if you're wondering if 4.5 hours of sleep is enough for your muscles and your central nervous system to recover and do more than recover, get better, right? Respond to the stimulus that you're providing in the gym. The answer is no. It's not enough. It's not even fucking close. And so I made very little progress my freshman year, as everybody was just shooting up in weights and stuff. And it pissed me off thoroughly. And I simply did not connect the dots back then. But that is why I was not up on the wall. A very coveted honor. A Golden Hawk is you put in some fucking work if you were a Golden Hawk.
I think it's kind of gotten overshadowed though when we started doing the Hawkeye Championship of like individually ranking guys as well, not just the teams. I think that kind of overshadowed it a little bit.
As far as like what you care about the most in the off season.
Yeah.
Like, because now you have a number, you literally have a number that's basically, if you want to explain
your social credit.
It is your Iowa
Chinese Communist Party social credit score.
It is a social credit score within the program, right? Like,
there's also a lot of athletic stuff in there too, but
sure. A lot of it is based on athletic performance and metrics. However, classroom stuff,
being on time, not
being on
missing
time, citizenship, how much you volunteered for certain things that gave you extra points,
making your body weight,
making body like, it was a social credit score, no doubt. And in a way, there were some flaws. There were some flaws because there was certainly a couple guys at the top of that list on occasion who were freaks, but they just weren't good dudes, right? Or they weren't the best dudes, socially or friendship wise or teammate wise. And there were some guys who were good guys towards the bottom of that list. But for the most part, that list was about as correlative as it could be. Baby girl, again, pissed that I was not at the top of this list. Um, as correlative as it could be to like, hey, how are you performing in this program as a human right now, all around? And I think you were top 10 in that several times, Kev.
Just senior year, I was
okay,
like 3 or 4.
So that would have been out of 110 to 120 guys each year, right?
Well, it doesn't include the incoming freshmen, so call it 80 or something.
Call it 80 or 90 guys, and I think my average placing on that was somewhere in the 30s. I think I climbed into the 20s one year. I was 24th, 25th. I was not getting a lot of points for any of the weight room stuff. I won a few races. I was quick, but my grades also weren't great. Talked about that before, and I was pretty good at the rest of the stuff. So I was upper half, upper third. But I think you're right. I think a lot of people did care more about that than necessarily getting the Golden Hawk, which was strictly focused on the performance metrics. I hung on to that for a while. I was salty about not being a Golden Hawk and watching you guys get that. And I'm
pretty sure I lost my T-shirt though, so
for good reason too. Like somebody who is going to be a go-getter, like I was, someone who cared about excelling in the program and having a successful career. To see Kevin and Drake get an honor like that and accomplish a task that is well respected within the walls of that facility. For me, that was a moment of fuck, I need to get my shit together. Like these guys are, and there's a lot of that, right? There's so much and here, okay, this is going to be a buzzword as people are saying that the fucking Ferences aren't accountable and then that the people in that complex aren't accountable and they're you want to talk about accountability other than just straight up accountability. Like when you go into the film room or you get a performance evaluation or whatever, and it's told to your face, the amount of like structural accountability that was built in to that program, that staff, those players, it's unbelievable. Right. And if you're smart and you're cognizant of like, damn, my teammates are outperforming me. I need to pick my shit up. I need to be better at this. I need to do this. If you're aware of how those things are seen in the program, it pushes you forward. It makes you one of the guys who eventually is looked at as a leader, as a guy who knows the playbook, right? In Iowa football, it was often said like, and I think Kevin explained this when he was a freshman, looking up at guys like Jordan Lomax and other guys. Sheriff has long been talked about as this kind of guy. I think Josie has talked about James Morris in this way. There was senior leader guys who clearly knew. It was like they were writing the playbook on how to be a successful player in that program. And there was nothing magical. There was just a lot that you had to do on the daily. And if you're a guy who's getting a Golden Hawk, if you're a guy who's on the top of that offseason competition, those are the guys who you looked at and you're just like, damn, like they have this figured out and they're reaping the benefits of that. So it pushed me forward to be better, to get better at snapping, to get better in the weight room, to compete with you guys in the off season. I never was a Golden Hawk, but not being one yielded me benefits. So it's good stuff.
Accountability and competition, baby. That's what it's all about.
And those who, there's plenty who got chewed up and spit out in that same process, right? Like you start to see you're not a Golden Hawk. You're not up there on the offseason, and now you start to feel like you're being picked on. I don't want to go back to the whole Coach Doyle racism thing here, but this is without 100% knowledge of some of the ways that these guys who came out and said certain things happened to them. They lied. This is how a lot of those guys think, right? They start to see stuff like, oh, they're not picked high in the offseason team draft. They're not up there on the offseason competition. They're not getting a Golden Hawk. They're not making their body weights. They're not doing XYZ. Some guys, a lot of people, probably the majority of people in real life, you've got a little bit more higher tier of elite performers inside of a Division I complex. A lot of people will start to make excuses. They will start to blame other people. They will start to craft a narrative, a story of why they are not succeeding when others are, why others are getting opportunities that they are not. And that's a slippery slope. And Kevin and I have seen that happen many a time as well. And those little things, Golden Hawks, right? A PR in the weight room, making body weight on a Monday. Those little things were what added up to big things like, attrition, people getting kicked out of the program, people being told their scholarship wasn't going to be renewed, people not getting playing time. Like the program, it's all connected, and that program was structured. And it's why Kevin and I and Drake respect it so much, is that program is constructed January 1st through December 31st in a way that is primed and ready to create success. Not just success on the field, but successful individuals.
Basically, they designed it so that it would encourage you in every way possible to be a professional, right?
Yeah.
And professionalism doesn't just mean a professional at sports, it means being a pro at life, being able to take a human being who is successful at being a pro at being an Iowa football player. You can go on and do anything else after that and be successful, whether it's in the NFL, whether it's in corporate America, whether it's starting your own business. Tyler, congratulations. You're not unemployed. I'm not going to make the unemployed joke. Drake's unemployed, though.
Absolutely. That fucking guy is a loser.
It gives you life tools and basically just grows you up how to be a well-functioning adult. That's all they're asking you to do, is basically high school is over. This is your transition period. We'll be a little bit lax on you early, but we're expecting you to act like grown adults now.
And some people aren't ready for it.
A lot of people aren't.
Some people are not ready for it.
People are 30 years old and still don't want to act like grown-ass adults.
And that's what I'm saying, right? Like when you're asked to perform and behave at a level at 18, 19 years old, and you have the kinds of standards that we had, that is tough. It was tough for me. I'm not even going to say it was easy for me. It was tough for Kevin, right? You're forged by fire. You're forged by fire. They don't have time. There's no time. It's an elite system and structure that gets shit done quick and brings people up to a high level. It's why companies all over the place, Kevin's industry specifically, they look to hire former athletes. And I'm not going to say,
over the place.
And I'm not going to say that D1 is better than a D3 athlete when it comes to hiring somebody in the corporate world, but
not really.
To some extent inside of the specificity of sport, like the D1 standards that we were held to, a lot of the stuff that we did, the competition level, it was 5X, 10X in a lot of ways what you would get at like a Central, or, it was the top of the top, right? And that is what Golden Hawk ultimately sort of, in a way, presented itself as one aspect of that structure. So good question. Something we haven't talked about in a long, long time, and gave us a nice little episode on it. Quickly before we hop off here, we had some other stuff on the that'll probably detail out a little bit more for our next episode whenever we get to that. But one thing I saw before we hopped on here, someone tagged me today. The Titans released veterans Taylor Lewan and Randy Bullock today. He's the kicker. The Titans' backup kicker
is none other than
your Iowa Hawkeye, Caleb Shudak.
Yeah.
And he got into a game and went 3 for 4 last year in a very, very windy game. And I believe that Caleb Shudak has a chance to be the first guy to stick on an active roster for multiple games, maybe multiple seasons at the kicker position in a long, long time, all the way back to a guy named Nate Kading. So that's exciting. That's exciting for me as a specialist, someone who snapped to Caleb. And that's fucking cool, man. There's 32 jobs and you do not get a chance at those very often. So that was cool to see. Thank you to whoever tagged me in that.
There's 32 jobs. So already one of the more prize coveted elite positions to get in the world, but job security, not high.
No,
unless you've been doing it for a while, they'll cut you in a week if you have a couple bad weeks in a row.
They will.
There's 30 guys right behind you who are just as good, if not just maybe a little bit worse. That's why they weren't playing. If you're not up to speed this week, your ass could be in the hot seat real soon.
And we just talked about how they cut Randy Bullock. If you stick around too long as a specialist, you're gone as well.
You get a little expensive, yeah.
Because now they're spending upwards of $3, $4, $5 million on a kicker or a punter, a long snapper, and when eventually someone in the organization
that would gladly take $750.
Right? Yeah, you're looking at somebody in the organization eventually goes, "Hey, we like this 10-year vet guy. Like he's done a lot for us. We love him, but fuck, man, we could really use a couple million to pay a receiver." You know?
Yeah.
So
brutal
good
game.
for Good for Shudak. I really, really hope that that's the case and he sticks. It would make me. It would bring me joy. I would watch every Titans game. That would be literally something that would make me watch every Titans game that I could. And he would be living the dream that I didn't get to live. So
what is Taylor Lewan going to retire and just do podcasting now? Because
I think, man,
right?
Yeah, he's been there for 10 years. He. Funny story actually about Taylor Lewan. He played at Michigan, obviously. And Sheriff was in the draft class after him. And I remember this story from when Sheriff was going through that process. The day after this could be a little fuzzy, but I bet Brandon would confirm that it was at least mostly to the point. I think Ike told me this like way back when. Because Ike was lived with Sheriff for a while. The day after the Tax Slayer Bowl, the Hawk Slayer Bowl, when we got fucked up by Josh Dobbs and the Tennessee Volunteers, Taylor Lewan called Sheriff and was like, "Hey," was vouching for his agent, right? Like his agent basically had him, and at the time, Lewan was kind of known as like this D-bag and dude, kind of like a bully, like Big Ten lineman. He was a blue blood. Like no one liked him. At least that's the vibe that I got. He's obviously a cool dude. If you listen to the podcast, seems like one of the boys, right? Like they would say. But it was like Sheriff was so turned off by this guy just randomly calling from an enemy team, because that's how Brandon saw it. I was like, "Hey man, you should really sign with my agent." Because Lewan had just signed a first-round contract the previous year for this guy, and this agent was trying to scheme money, not scheme money, but he was trying to be the guy who cashed in with Brandon. And I remember that from 10 years ago.
I remember hearing that story too. I don't know if it was the day after. I just know that he called him.
Yeah.
I mean, there's only so many NFL guys, and you know what? It pays a lot to be their agent because 3% is a decent amount of money.
3% is a lot, man. Speaking of, before we get off here, we need to have Searles back on as we get closer to the draft. But Searles and the boy and his agency, they've got a first rounder.
Yeah.
So
yeah, we absolutely need Searles on before the draft.
Yeah. That'll be a fun show. Anyway, thank you for listening to episode 397. Better find somebody big here. Drake said he was going to try and get George. I don't know if he's going to come through on that. So I better really like start reaching out and try and find someone. Otherwise,
episode's going to be Grant, our guest for number 4.
Episode 400. Grant Allen, our intern. Welcome to the show. Yeah, dude, I'm telling you, like right now is that time where all these guys, whether they just played in college or they're in the NFL, they just got done with the season. They're all taking vacations. Nobody wants to fucking get on a podcast. Like it is so hard.
February is a shitty month, man. Just go on vacation. It's only 4 weeks anyway. Just like take a week vacation, then February doesn't even exist.
Yeah, you're right. That's what you did.
That's what I did. Specifically planned it because February sucks.
Ass month. Worst month.
By far the worst month of the year.
Clearly. All right. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you next time. Thank you. Leave some reviews for the boys. Go comment on the YouTube, follow our TikTok, follow our reels, all of that shit. Grant's pumping out content on the daily. Thanks for listening. Talk to you next time. Peace.